Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today to share a very powerful message to you. I'm going to challenge you today, all your beliefs that you currently have about how we age, our physical health, and our mental well-being. I'm going to ask you to do something just for a moment. Close your eyes. With your eyes closed, I'd like for you to picture an 83-year-old person. What words would you use to describe this person that you have in your mind? Now, I've asked this question many times to clients, to friends, to family members, and the words that you see behind me are typical responses. When they picture an 83-year-old person, they see somebody that's dependent on others. They see somebody that's isolated, frustrated, sometimes mean and angry, dealing with ailments and sickness and weakness of the body. I don't know about you, but these are not flattering words. These are not the words I would want others to use to describe me when I'm 83. I'd like for you to meet my next door neighbors from college. This is Ed and Teresa. Now, this isn't an actual photo of them. But when I think of these folks, this is what I remember. This is back in the mid-90s, back in my college days, when I was a teenager in my early 20s. And if someone had asked me back then what I thought an 83-year-old person represented, I would have thought of those same words I just showed you. But not these folks. Ed and T, as they went by, they were some of the most energetic, joy-filled, happy people I'd ever met in my entire life. And I learned so much from them over those 4 or 5 years, being their next-door neighbor, all the conversations. And they would almost daily go and play tennis. Now, this is up in Connecticut, so the weather was a bit of a factor for a few months out of the year. But I'll tell you, from March into November, if the weather was nice, Ed and T would go and play tennis. And they were fine tennis players. Ed at the time was 83 years old. T just a couple years younger. I didn't realize what I was learning from them, how much they were inspiring me for my life's work. So I've gone on to, for the past 25 years, work with folks, specializing in the older community, working with people 40, 50, 60 plus, and helping them to move more in life. And I've been fighting an uphill battle. As a lifelong trainer and strength coach, and more recently a brain health specialist and movement specialist, I am working against a very sedentary culture here in America. 7 to 12 hours per day we sit. And what's alarming is I work in the health and fitness industry, and I fall into that same category. I sit behind a desk most hours of the day. And if I'm not behind a desk, I'm sitting in my car. And if I'm not sitting in my car, I'm sitting at home on the sofa. I'm sitting a lot. And it's really hard to undo all of that sitting. We have to really be intentional and go out of our way to fix that. What's really alarming is that just 100 years ago, 1925, we were 5 times more active in our daily lives than we are right now. 5 times, just living our lives. This has led to what we see now, 1 in 9 adults, 45 plus, experiencing cognitive decline. Now you might be wondering, what does cognitive decline mean, Chris? Cognitive decline is a gradual decrease in our ability to think, to remember, to recall memories and past experiences. It's a nice way of saying we're losing our minds. At the same time this is happening, in the last 60 years, we have tripled our obesity rate here in the US. We are the 10th most obese nation in the world. And what do we know about the sedentary lifestyle? Well, I can tell you this after working in this space for almost 30 years. The sedentary lifestyle is linked to low mood and depression. And depression is at an all-time high with our young people. And this is staggering and saddening. Now, as a movement specialist, as a trainer, as a strength coach, I have seen the power of movement, strength training, exercise in my own life. I've personally felt it, the power of it. But I've also seen it in others that I've worked with. And I've worked with hundreds of people over the last 25 plus years. What we know about physical activity is that it increases blood flow to every single part of our body, especially our brains. It oxygenates all of the tissues of the body and our organs, keeps things functioning at a high level and optimizes those things. It enhances our mood. It releases all those feel-good chemicals in our brain, all the ones that make us feel good, make us smile, make us feel joyful. The more we move, the better we sleep. Study after study indicate when we're physically active, we have better quality sleep. We sleep for longer and we sleep more deeply. It increases neurogenesis. That's a fancy way of saying more nerve cells in our brain. So we actually get smarter when we move. We create new nerve cells in our brains. Enhanced connectivity is socialization. When we move, we're typically more social. And human beings crave social connection. Isolation is not a good way to age. It boosts our memory. More on that in a moment. I have some really interesting things to tell you about our memory and how it's connected to physical activity. And what we know for certain is that when we move, we do a great job of reducing our stress and anxiety. It goes down almost immediately. I'm going to prove that to you in just a second as well. The Alzheimer's Association equates physical activity to one of the 10 best ways to love your brain. Well, that's all I need to hear. I don't want Alzheimer's, I don't want dementia, I don't want cognitive decline, and I know you don't as well. The National Institutes of Health says that physical activity delays your brain aging, so it decelerates how fast your brain ages. It slows it down. And physical activity delays degenerative pathologies such as MS, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, and a whole host of chronic illnesses. One of the most inspiring things I've ever read in my last 25 plus years is this quote from Nobel Prize recipient in literature, George Bernard Shaw. He said, "We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing." Something awful happens to us when we decide to become adults in our 20s and 30s. We stop doing all those things that gave us so much joy when we were children. Children move almost too much, a bit. I have young children, they move a little bit much. But it's inspiring to see, and we should never lose that playful, joy-filled experience of movement and physical activity. Hold on to it as long as you possibly can. Now, I have a scan here, a brain scan, from Dr. Charles Hillman of the University of Illinois, formerly. And what you'll notice is the brain on the left isn't as colorful as the one on the right. Well, right now, as good as I am doing up here on this red dot, I'm having very little impact on your brains. Your brains right now, as you sit there, are more like the one on the left. But if you just got up and walked for 20 minutes, your brain will light up. A more colorful brain is a healthier brain. The color is actually equated to blood flow and oxygen consumption, neural activity. So our brain lights up when we move. There's a part of our brain at the very center of our brain. It's an area called the limbic system. And there's a little seahorse organ in there called your hippocampus. And your hippocampus is a very cool part of your brain. Its function is to help with memory and learning. It's your memory and learning center. And when we move, we greatly impact that part of the brain. It's responsible for turning short-term memories into long-term memories. So I hope my talk today passes that test and becomes not just a short-term memory for today, but a long-term memory for a lifetime. And when you move, that's exactly what happens. Your brain and nervous system function like a complex highway system, like what you see in this photo. Signals firing in all directions, very busy, very active. And if you had to think about how much activity is going on inside your body right now, you wouldn't have time to think about anything else. Luckily, we don't have that problem. It all is happening kind of on autopilot. This movement needs to remain as strong and as possible, as active as it possibly can for as long as possible. Because when we stop moving, this highway system starts to erode and break down. When I think of a healthy neural pathway, I think of this. I'm an outdoor guy. I love doing anything in nature. And I think of a well-used trail, a trail like what you see here in this picture. This trail is wide open and healthy and allows easy passage. But what happens when we stop moving is it becomes obstructed and breaks down. And those messages, those signals stop firing and going to different parts of the body. That has a reciprocal effect. Not only does our body start to break down, but so does our brain. So I'm going to ask you to do something here really quick. First, I would like for you to assess how you're feeling sitting in your seats right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not very good, 10 being amazing. You can keep the number to yourself. Now, what I would like for you to do is sit up straight. Improve your posture. Shoulders back, head up, chest out. I see some smiles. It's hard to see, but I think I see a few smiles. Do you feel better? All you did was just adjust how you're sitting there. Most of us are kind of slouched. We need to think about it, shoulders back, just like at the dinner table when we were little. Now, I'm going to take this one step further. Would you all stand for me just for a moment? I appreciate it. If you can't stand, that's okay, but I would appreciate it if you could. Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, now what I would like for you to do is follow me through 16 seconds of activity. Are you ready? It's not strenuous at all. You can do it right from where you're standing. Okay, here we go. We're going to climb a rope. We're going to reach behind us. We're going to go up on our toes. And then lastly, we're going to raise our knees. Are you ready? I'm going to count it out. Here we go. We're going to climb 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to twist behind us. 5, 6, 7, 8, we're going to go up on our toes. 9, 10, 11, 12, and we're going to pull up our knees. 13, 14, that might be harder. 15, 16, that's it. And you're done. You may rest. Now, I'm not an aerobics instructor, obviously. I really appreciate you participating in that. Do you feel different? On a scale of 1 to 10, did your number change? Well, when I've done this with other people in the past, typically the number goes up by at least 3. So if you were a 2, you're a 5. If you were a 5, you're an 8. Maybe you're a 10 now. And that's just improved posture and 16 seconds of activity. Imagine if you were more active every day, how much better you would feel. When I think of this, I think of one of my favorite all-time clients. His name was Paul. Paul had peripheral neuropathy, nerve damage to his extremities. He was in pain quite often, and when he would come see me 3 times a week, he was typically not in the best of moods when he would walk through the door. But he would come, and we would work together. And something miraculous would happen every session. In 10 minutes, Paul would grin. He would feel better. He would share his life with me. We would laugh. And I could tell that moving his body was affecting his life in real time. Paul and I grew very close. He considered me like a grandson. And I really loved that man. We had great times together over those years. It was a profound experience for me that I'll never forget. The power of movement cannot be denied. It improves your digestion. So when we move our physical body, we move the internal part of our body. It improves circulation to all parts, so blood flow to all of our parts of our body, our extremities, our fingers, our toes, and our brain, of course. It improves our sleep quality, as I alluded to earlier. It strengthens our bones and our muscles. It keeps them strong for as long as we need them to. It prevents chronic disease, things like diabetes and heart disease and all these other chronic illnesses that we have suffered from over the last 50 to 100 years. It boosts our mood. It makes us feel better. And it maintains those strong neural pathways that I showed you an image of just before. So now I'd like you to again close your eyes for a second, and I would like for you to reimagine that 83-year-old person in your minds. That person from before. However, this time, that 83-year-old person is you. And I think that these words are the types of words I would want others to use to describe me at 83. Independent, strong, connected, joyful, playful, healthy. These are the types of words that we should all aspire to if we make movement a priority in our lives. This is Ed. Remember my neighbor Ed from college? This is Ed. Ed lived to be 96 years old. He had 4 daughters, 12 grandchildren, 16 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandchild. I don't know about you, but I don't know very many people who knew their great-great-grandchild. He attributes his longevity and the quality of life to him playing tennis. He played tennis till he was 94 years old. He is a living testament to what movement can do for your life. Movement truly is medicine. It's medicine for your body and for your brain. So I encourage you all today to walk, to run, to lift, and to play. Because the more you do that, the better you'll feel. And the better you will move, and the better you will think. I thank you all so much for your time.